Hey y'all, a long time no see. I haven't heard nobody say it in so long. I feel like, yeah. Anyway, hey y'all, so happy Tuesday. It's been a while. I'm really happy to be here speaking to you guys again. As you come into the room, make sure you let me know that you're coming into the room. Tonight I have on my unicorns, fairy dust, and AR-15s type of girl tees. These are now available in my Shopify link below. So y'all make sure y'all check that out. I have some new merch over there. Hey to everybody coming in the room. Steph says, "Hi Rhonda, I love my new t-shirt. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for the support." Hi MM, hi Southeast Dusty. So hopefully everyone is doing well. We're gonna talk about a couple of things tonight. Before we do that, let me go ahead and thank my patrons, to the people who helped me do this, help support my content. I really, really appreciate you. I want to take the time to thank you. A special thank you to my VIP patrons, Daniel and Ray Ray. If you would like to become a member of my Patreon, that link is also below. Hey, Stay Lace. Thank you. I missed y'all too. Hey, Pilu. Hey, Light Bearer. So, y'all, I've literally been so on the go for the last 2 weeks that I'm just now really having time to decompress. Life has just been, kind of busy, and that happens sometimes. And then also, 2 weeks ago, I went to Vegas for DC. For an interview out there with John Bartolo. So I did that for his podcast. That was 2 weeks ago. And then the following week, I went right into DC. I was in DC for several days there with the DC Project, which is a group of ladies who all come together to spread awareness about why the Second Amendment is important to them. So this is a group of, very diverse ladies from all 50 states who talk to basically like senators, congressmen, and stuff like that. So I did join them for this recent DC trip. And we got to talk to different people. I got to share my story, which was pretty cool and interesting. Did some networking and things like that. So yeah, y'all. Been pretty busy, but busy is a good thing. Doesn't have to be a bad thing. Southeast Dusty said your trip to DC was a surprise. We could have met up for wings and mumbo sauce. Let me tell you, first of all, I've been hearing about this mumbo sauce and I didn't have a chance to try it. People were like, you gotta try this mumbo sauce. And I really just didn't get a chance to try it. And also kind of just hanging out. I was on such a tight schedule that it's just, I mean, they really had us going interview here, meeting there, and stuff like that. So it was kind of, a busy time. Said the last 2 weeks have set Black people back about 160 years as usual. I cannot deal with y'all. We're gonna talk about some different things tonight. Um, this live may not be as long as my typical one. We'll just see how it fleshes out. But I am planning to get back on my more regular content. Golly, everybody from the DMV. I had a lot of people hit me up on Instagram. I didn't know you was out here. I didn't know you was in my city. I didn't know you were in DC. This, then the other. So that's pretty cool. But all right, y'all. So first of all, let's briefly talk about um the fact that you had a YouTube CEO who's basically come out. I mean, they've literally doubled down on this whole authoritative, like, I mean, and some of y'all that's been rocking with me for a long time, I would presume even some of y'all will notice how, and they're certainly confirming more and more over time, how they have bumped up certain voices and things like that, while de-ranking, de-platforming, de-promoting videos and content. Hey BJ, hey Edward. Um, and that can be very discouraging to content creators, and you have a lot of people coming to speak out about this from all sides of the aisle, because we're gonna talk about it. Let's look at a little bit of this, and I'm gonna tell y'all why this is getting bad, and why particularly we need Congress people, we need a president that actually stands up for the ideas of what America supposedly about, right? Things like freedom of speech. And you will have some people that'll argue, well, you shouldn't have the right to say this, you shouldn't have a right to do this or whatever. Obviously, in no sense do I cater ever for unnecessarily or unjust violence. And I think that is in that event, yes, things like that where it's actually against the law, because it's that would be like threats against people, seeing that that's actually unlawful. Yeah, I think things like that should be regulated. But what happens is, and what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, is that when this whole censorship things happen, unfortunately, you have a lot of people that fall through the cracks. And so this is the let me make sure I'm showing y'all the right thing. So this is a YouTube CEO, basically, just saying it out of her own mouth.
Totally, everyone tells me how they fix something in their house, but I think what you're bringing up is one of these challenges: is what is considered good content. We do classify, when it comes to information, authoritative content. So if you're looking for COVID information, we actually can say, look, the health organization, your local health authority, the CDC, or whatever country you're in, or the World Health Organization, those are organizations that we can trust, as opposed to some channel that just showed up that we don't have any kind of authoritative information about. So we definitely have a concept with information about authoritative sources, and we make sure that when people are looking for information that is sensitive, that we show those authoritative sources. But if you're in the entertainment area, or you're looking how to fix something or how to learn something or an obscure topic, it's really hard to put some judgment about what is the best content that's out there.
Right. So
it's a part, and it's in this article, where she talks about basically how they're going to prop up authoritative voices. I can't find it. It's somewhere here in this article. Now I've dropped the link below as well. But she talks about where they're going to promote these authoritative voices. So if you talk about any level of news, basically this information will be more borderline content, and more content to be weary of, be more skeptical of, as opposed to somebody doing makeup, somebody doing music, somebody doing whatever else. So translation to me, they totally okay with you entertaining people. They're totally okay with you being a clown. They're totally okay with you doing things for just funny purposes, comedic purposes, entertainment purposes. But when it comes to actually talking about things that are affecting society, things that we are being lied to about, and basing any type of opinion around that, if it deviates from the mainstream media narrative, they're going to have a problem with that. In a lot of regards, they have stifled independent voices and independent news commentators and things like this. And it may not seem like a big deal. And I honestly think, especially since you have Joe Biden in office now, who is not addressing this to any degree, I think you're going to have people become more and more They're going to become more and more accepting of these things. They're going to become more and more desensitized. But what people don't really realize is how impactful and negative this could be in the long run, the long term impact of this. It used to be a time where YouTube was actually YouTube. It was to go listen to regular people, regular everyday voices, get information that you may not get on mainstream, be able to relate to people, right? Because even if we're talking about representation, you'll have the media that always represents different demographics, whatever that demographic may be, oftentimes in the most stereotypical way, right? And you've even had YouTube open up doors for people just sharing different opinions, doing different things. It's allowed people to create little communities, even like Helena, right? So some of y'all may know or be familiar with Helena, who is one of my moderators and has been one of my biggest supporters since like ever, for like years now, right? And I haven't heard from Helena in like 3 to 4 weeks now, which may not sound like a big deal to a lot of people, but I'm so used to us just, conversing regularly on like Twitter and things like that. And some of y'all, it's become like a community, even people coming in here like, Rhonda, we missed you, welcome back. It's very easy to notice like, okay, she's been off doing other things for a while. And, it's just these different areas and communities and tribes that social media has created. And hopefully, I don't know if Helena is watching or will be watching, but hopefully she's doing well and, everything is good and she's in my prayers. But they're trying to almost, in a lot of ways, create a disconnect, create discomfort, create distrust between these communities that are being created and some people that are having the same suspicions or calling some of the same things out, wanting to hold these politicians accountable, wanting to hold Big Pharma accountable. You're looking at now things like Joe Biden, us really not ever knowing if they're really going to end this whole Afghan thing and things like that. And when people calling it out, Big Pharma, Big Tech, big mainstream news media, they don't like that. They don't like that. And honestly, it's something to be worried about. It is something to be concerned about. This was a few weeks ago. In response to creator feedback around well-being and targeted dislike campaigns, we're testing a few new designs that don't show the public dislike count. If you're part of this small experiment, you might spot one of these designs in the coming weeks. Example below. Somebody said this would be like Amazon hiding negative reviews. Bezos explained why this didn't do that, and I think it applies here too. If people choose to spend their time on content, likes, dislikes can help them make informed decisions on which pieces are most worth their time. Destroying logical and functioning systems due to nuanced scenarios is by definition illogical and creates non-functioning systems. You're a billion-dollar company and take nearly 50% of my ad revenue, and this is what your executives come up with, right? So beyond even thinking about this on a surface level, because of course media is going to always push the more fear-based tactic, right? Oh, we're trying to save you from misinformation. We're trying to save you from hate speech, but totally forgetting about the things that'll slip through the cracks, like when you had Wall Street Bets, which people were going to leave these reviews on these different stock apps and things like this, and you had Google removing the comments. This was a huge example of solidarity, right? just regular everyday people who are trying to invest, maybe feeling like, okay, we want to get a piece of this pie, and things like this. And that was an example of big tech, mainstream media, along with your corrupt politicians turning on the people. I don't even know a better, more recent example of that. And if something like that could happen, just imagine what we're looking at here, in the time to come when they really start pushing these vaccination passports. I think America is a little bit past the lockdown part, it seems to me, especially when you have a lot of these states finally standing up for themselves. Like, look, we're not doing that here. We're off that. You have people like Florida, Texas, really making standout moves. And like, look, our economy is thriving. We're doing what we got to do and stuff like that. So you have big tech that doesn't like that. And also, I'm starting to wonder, does this have anything to do with these comments that we're seeing, the content that we're seeing coming out the White House? I don't know how many of y'all have checked out the White House YouTube recently, but I'm going to show you here. The like to dislike ratio is astounding. I've never seen anything like this. I've never experienced or seen anything like this on YouTube. And so honestly, we can in some ways defer that YouTube, big tech, is doing this to protect, again, these politicians work hand in hand, right? Dislike 900 to like 102. You could go to any recent video, 2,000 dislikes to 202. They've literally turned off the comments on the official White House YouTube. Now, this is supposedly, allegedly, for the most popular president in history, most votes in history. I find it's absolutely odd that you are able to get more people to show up to the poll than just to even want to know what's going on. And to me, that's saying, maybe one of two things. Like, are these real supporters? I don't even know what's the second thing I was about to say, because it's like, were these real reporters, or are people so mentally checked out that it's like, I showed up to the polls and yeah, whatever, I'm off it. I mean, it's not logical. So when you have a YouTube that comes out and says, oh, we're only going to promote authoritative voices. Oh, now we're checking this whole like to dislike ratio. It's like, what's the truth here? What's the truth here? Some person that used to work in Facebook now works for Joe Biden's administration. I don't know if y'all remember, I showed this a while ago. It was an interview that Hillary Clinton did, and they asked her if she could have any other job other than, I think at the time she was running for president. And they said, if you could work any other job, well, not work any other job, if you could have any other position other than wanting to be the future president, what would you want to do? She literally said she would want to run Facebook because of being able to craft, a narrative, be in control of a social media. That's what that is. This is a communication lane. It's a communication portal. It's social, interactive media. And for her to even say that and say that on record, I was a little blown away. But in a lot of ways, it continues to show these parallels between these agencies. They work together. They are parallel. They back each other up. That should really be concerning when people that can basically craft the conversation, create the narrative, they can bump up the algorithms of what they want us to see and what they don't want us to see, when they want us to see it and when they don't want us to see it. Just even imagine just that, right? Just on a very surface level of, in some regards, whether it's we're looking at a police brutality incident, whether we're looking at the death of a celebrity, as it related to like COVID and lockdowns and things like this. As we become more connected in this social space, it's almost an energy too, right? It's an energy that's being created around a lot of these topics, and the polarization, whether we're talking about like the things I just mentioned, whether we're talking about masks or lockdowns or a police brutality incident or anything else, and them being able to in some ways control the ebb and the flow, especially particularly with certain communities, control the ebb and flow of a certain level of energy, affecting people's psyche, right? There's tons of research of how social media is affecting self-esteem, affecting trauma, mental health, and all of these other things. So, social media works with, aligned with, parallel with government, government aligned with, paralleled with big pharma. In some ways, it seems like even a lot of money could be switching hands, right? Almost creating certain reactions, exacerbating trauma. Now, I also, because I can prop up what's misinformation, I can also prop up big pharma. It's just funny to me that a lot of the people that swear to be the resistance can't see the connections in some of these things. You are not the resistance if you believe that corporatism or celebrating or overly promoting corporatism and not seeing how your favorite politicians, regardless of side of the aisle, a lot of them are feeding into these things, feeding into corporatism, feeding into big tech. And a lot of these people will say they're the resistance. You hate capitalism, but you love capitalist activism, like corporatist activism. Like, make it make sense. None of this makes sense. And I've had some time to think about these things over like the last couple of weeks that I haven't been doing this. And I just be looking at some of this stuff like, if you're sponsored by Nike, by Amazon, if Facebook is constantly propping you up, you're probably not the resistance. You know, I'd be willing to put a little wager on that, but I guess you can never be too sure, in 2021, because anything makes sense these days. But the levels to want to control I think I honestly believe we're either a few short years for either something shifting, which could be a really good shift, or, maybe not so good. I don't really know, but let's keep talking about this because even more so going into this COVID thing, apparently people are outraged or bothered by even the idea that Joe Rogan could be on Spotify and say anything that would be counter to what big pharma mama and daddy, big government mama and daddy gave this grown man permission to say or think. How dare he? How dare Spotify let him open his mouth, zip his lips, unless he reads this script, these cue cards, right? So let's take a look at this and what was said. Joe Rogan tells 21-year-olds not to get COVID vaccine on popular Spotify show.
And people say, do you think it's safe to get vaccinated? I've said, yeah, I think for the most part it's safe to get vaccinated. I do. But if you're like 21 years old and you say to me, should I get vaccinated? I go, no. Are you healthy? Are you a healthy person? Like, look, don't do anything stupid, but you should take care of yourself. You should, if you're a healthy person and you're exercising all the time and you're young and you're eating well, like, I don't think you need to worry about this.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
But there's a lot of jobs that will tell you you need to have this.
Well, that's what's starting to happen now.
People are worried about them doing it for their children. And we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
That you might have to have your children vaccinated. And, I can tell you as someone who's both my children got the virus, it was nothing. I mean, I hate to say that. If someone's children died from this, I'm very sorry that happened. I'm not in any way diminishing that. But I'm saying the personal experience that my children had with COVID was nothing. One of the kids had a headache. The other one didn't feel good for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, I mean, not feel good, like no big deal. No coughing,
right.
no.
Not only is this based on his personal experience watching his children actually deal with COVID, so he's not allowed to have an opinion, but the person who, like, from his own family's experience, but the person who wants to inject their child with an experimental vaccine, yes, this vaccine is still experimental, okay? Or the person who, unfortunately, child has succumbed to COVID-19. For some reason, their opinion is ranked, right? Even though if you ask most parents would tell to you the same exact thing Joe Rogan just said, right? As someone who, they said my niece, which was less than 6 months, maybe around 6 months at the time, my brother-in-law had COVID. My sister and my niece went and got tested for it. They told them they had COVID. They apparently tested for it. My sister nor my niece had any symptoms, right? I also had some of my like baby cousins who also, as their dad was kind of having some of the I don't even want to say like cold symptoms. They may have had, just like what he said, runny nose, this and that, right? Not only that, people are trying to act like this is so far-fetched. The truth is the truth. It's not, your narrative is not going to change this. So this was Joe Biden back just a few months ago doing the presidential town hall. Let's see if it's gonna play. They probably like, girl, you back talking this noise already? It's acting like it doesn't want to play. We about to de-rank your video. All right, so we'll get it a second to see what it does. Let's see.
Thank you.
Okay.
As we've been talking about, the coronavirus is very real and very scary. And it's especially scary for children who may or may not understand. My children, Layla, 8 here, and my son, Mateo, 7 at home, often ask if they will catch COVID, and if they do, will they die? They are watching as others get the vaccine, and they would like to know, when will kids be able to get the vaccine?
Well, first of all, honey, what's your first name?
Layla.
Layla, beautiful name. First of all, kids don't get the vaccine, get COVID very often. It's unusual for that to happen. They don't. And the evidence so far is children aren't the people most likely to get COVID. Number one. Number two, we haven't even done tests yet on children as to whether or not certain vaccines would work or not work, or what is needed. So you're the safest group of people in the whole world. Number one.
This was a national, like, presidential town hall. But for some reason now this is offensive to say, when it is true, has been the truth. Imagine, like, what kind of people out here are out here putting so much fear in your children that if they just act as a normal human, that death is just looming. Like, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that. And based on the actual data, even just for the general population, but specifically for children, to put that thought in their head that death is just looming and lurking at any moment is inhumane. And if you don't think that that feeds into the psyche of our children, that then feeds into the cash cow that is Big Pharma, I don't know what to tell you. But when I say big tech, big pharma, big politics are the only people that have won anything out of this whole thing, so now, just recently, you have an MIT study. This is according to Yahoo News. Staying 6 feet apart indoors does almost nothing to stop the spread of COVID. Study finds the widely used 6 feet rule does little to prevent COVID-19 exposure indoors. The risk of exposure from an infected person is similar at 6 feet and 60 feet. But months and months and months ago, when people with just simple common sense, you don't have to be special, you don't have to be some type of astronaut to understand, just if I get on a plane, they want to tell me to social distance getting on the plane, and then I'm sitting right by somebody, breathing, just breathing. Somebody behind me, somebody in front of me, just breathing. And they really try to, I remember specifically doing content about this. Like, first of all, if you're on a plane, you're obviously not that scared of COVID. You're not that fearful. So stop the cap. Second of all, it is completely just insanity at this point. Insanity. I sit here for 2.5 hours by this person, and then you want to make an announcement when we're getting off the plane. Oh, please deplane row by row. We want to make sure we social distance. And people are actually walking around like this stuff is normal. It makes my brain hurt. And I feel sad for so many young people that has let a year of their life get away because they were inoculated with fear. And then even just think about this, right? Just think about how crazy and freaked out this is. It took them longer to tell y'all that 6 feet apart does nothing. It took them longer to tell you that than it took them to put an experimental vaccine to inject it into your veins. If that's not uncanny, if that's not like, they created an entire vaccine supposedly with studies, even though you're the study if you took this vaccine. That's the real truth. But they supposedly, allegedly created a safe vaccine and tested it enough to know that it would be safe for you in a shorter time than it knew for us to know something that was common sense that tons of us knew and we're talking about months ago. But you know the messed up part about this is YouTube and Facebook would have called this misinformation when I said it, because I'm not authoritative. Even though 99.9% of the time, my average about as good as my average is about as good as surviving COVID. 99.9% of the time, I'm using the same mainstream media news sources. So what's misinformation about it? Is that not a rock and a hard place? Facebook literally came out and was like, oh, we didn't mean to remove the whole hydroxychloroquine thing because, that was the wrong thing to do. And it does have some benefits, but did it real quietly. Did it real hush hush. Tons of people could have lost their lives. Tons of people. And who's held accountable? Dr. Fauci. Some interview I was recently watching, and some guy was questioning him about all these lies. Who holds these people accountable? And then here comes the CDC. This just came out today. CDC says many Americans can now go outside without a mask. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention eases guidelines Tuesday on the wearing of masks outdoors, saying fully vaccinated Americans don't need to cover their faces anymore unless they're going in a big crowd of strangers. Well, thank you, CDC. Thank you, CDC, mommy and daddy, for finally giving me permission to walk around without covering my face. So now they're making it seem like, oh, we're going to try to get back to normal. You have some people, y'all, that are they're too wrapped up. Young, healthy people being led to believe that their God-given immune system, that an experimental concoction is better and more trustworthy. The same government, I'm just trying to make it make sense. The general consensus, right? And so when I say general, I mean this this thing that we're seeing on social media and possibly mainstream media is trying to push on us, right? the general consensus or the narrative that they've been trying to paint is, F the government, this system needs to come down. This system, nothing good can come from it. This, that, and the other. Last year, and I even see even now Kamala Harris trying to double back to the black maternity like deaths during pregnancy, right? I don't know if y'all remember how hot that discussion was during the time. People not even talking about it as much now. They hype the same people that hype the mainstream media that hype black women up, saying that doctors are trying to kill you in childbirth. White doctors are trying to kill you in childbirth. Now, when it comes to this is going to make big pharma money, you can totally trust this. Obama got it. Denzel Washington. Who's all these other people they had at this little vaccine concert? We are the world. Take the vax. Can people see how this pulling and pushing of this programming of when and how to trust the government, even in regards where we can see that it hasn't been beneficial? I don't know. I don't get it. Thank you, RLTDT podcast. Thank you so much. He said, glad to have you back. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you. That dumb ARs. I think that's how you say that. That dumb ARs. Thank you so much. Say you doing good work. Thanks for the info. Thank you for the super chat. But these are just some things to think about. And I guess to me, it kind of weirds me out when I see young people just living in a heightened state of fear. Because when I think of young people, I just think of like vibrance, like thinking you could take on the world, like almost like a fearless, like, and I don't mean it even in a dumb way. I don't mean like young and dumb. I just mean like it's a presence, right? When I just think of youthfulness. And now you have so many people just move to just fear. And, I know people personally that have dealt with depression because of, maybe being far away from family or being in a different city, or you've had these older people in these nursing homes that will be used to their families visiting them. And some people even like dying from loneliness and things like that. I'm like, and I saw an article the other day talking about studies show that people that work out more or are less likely to get COVID or have the worst symptoms of COVID. I'm like, you think? That's another thing that it took a year to tell us? Like, really? Seriously? Who's going to be held responsible for that? The people that forced the gyms to be closed down. I mean, but hey. Grace said majority of people's immunity is jacked up now. And a crazy part about that is that So even beyond immunity, right? Health. If you look generally at the health of Americans, we're not a very healthy nation. And if I remember correctly, after the COVID lockdowns, the average person has gained, I believe, between 12 to 17, 18 pounds. It was like in the double digits. And I'm like, that's average American. But then you come on the back end and tell us, oh, well, you really kind of should have been in the gym all along. But what kills me is people won't get mad. You won't get mad at Dr. Fauci. You won't get mad at Big Pharma for padding their pockets. You won't get mad at these news commentators that have promoted fear, that have induced trauma. But it be the independent voices, independent commentators that are the real problem. Those are the voices that need to be censored, because that's where we draw the line, okay? And the crazy part about it is, if you go back and check my content, I don't think I've missed on this COVID thing once. I've been on it. Like, just consistent. But Dr. Fauci can start off lying, change his position tons of times. And should we change our position with as we learn new information and validate this information? Yes. You know, that is the intelligent thing to do. However, when you have people that are supposedly experts and some of these things looking real questionable to people that just have common sense, and not only that, you having to come on record to say, oh yeah, well, I told a lie that time because, you know, we were doing it to protect the nation, protect your community, to keep you safe, to stop people from freaking out. Or that's not your job. Your job is not to baby me. It's not to pat me on the back. Your job is not to treat me like a child. Your job is to give me official information to the best of your ability. So now, as these things are slowly coming back to the forefront of mainstream media, them being more forthcoming, right? Some of these restrictions being released. And I think a huge part, probably the biggest part, were a lot of these states that were like, nah, screw that. We're off that. We're moving on. Our economy is booming, particularly with Florida and Texas, and looking at how a lot of people were traveling to Florida the last couple of weeks, whether it was just to enjoy, for vacation. And then even the juxtaposition, right? Of, in some regards, you have the governor of Florida being propped up, you know, the citizens saying good things about him, his constituents, and things like that. And then at the same time, you compare that to what's going on in California, and you have a recall. Something's not adding up there. Something's not making sense. Why would the person that's the killer, the murderer, right? He's doing all these things. He want to kill off the black population in Florida, right? Doing all these things, but that's not translating to the economy. That's not translating to the tourism. That's not translating to the people moving there. This is why I always tell people, you got to stop moving off feelings. You got to stop moving off what the media is telling you. You have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the facts. There's just a simple truth of the matter. The housing market, the people moving into Florida, the numbers are booming and was at the top even going into COVID and throughout COVID, and even up to now. I broke this down maybe a couple of weeks ago. We looked at the top 10 cities that people were moving to during 2020, going into 2021. About 7 of them were cities in Florida. Money don't lie. Feet and the way they walk don't lie. The direction people are going with their money does not lie. You can hashtag, you can, say some little cute, whatever type stuff, right? The new slogan, the new trendy, whatever. We're all in this together. But if that don't translate to people's pockets, if that don't translate to people's quality of life, their security and things like that, it's just internet talk. It's just internet talk. So, I think this is super interesting that the CDC is saying that, okay, now if you're vaccinated, you don't really have to wear a mask. I don't think it's going to be a big difference. I think that, honestly, people that are married to their mask at this point, and when I say that, I mean like you wear it like religiously. I think Dr. Fauci could get on national TV at this point and make a press conference to the world and say you never have to wear a mask again. You have so many people that's been inoculated with fear and the fear mongering that I just don't, it's going to take more time for a lot of people. I was talking about this when I went to DC last week. The energy there, right? So I'm in Mississippi. I went to Vegas and then I went to DC. The energy in DC was totally different from Mississippi to Vegas. Totally different. It's like people were walking around like zombied out. And I even mentioned this on Twitter. 2 incidents. One was where one woman was standing on the other side of a glass door. I knocked because I was looking for a certain building. She takes a napkin and opens the side of the door that only she's on. I'm not even coming inside the door. I'm standing out here to ask you a question. You take a napkin. I was like, okay. I didn't even touch her side of the door, just nothing. And then let me tell y'all. So it was a group of us. Thank you so much, Sooner for Now. Thank you for the super chat. It was a group of us ladies, and we were walking. We were going to meet with like some staffers, right? On Capitol Hill. And it was this guy, and he's in DC, and he's like running, and he has on his little shorts and all this type stuff. And y'all know the type of people I'm talking about. So he's running. And he's like, for God's sakes, put on a mask. It's the rule out here. It's the law out here. Something he said. And I turned around like, first of all, I didn't say anything to him because for a second he was running. So he's past us at this point. And I kind of was in shock because I'm thinking like, I thought this only happened on TV. I thought this only happened on social media. I didn't know this was like a real thing. Second of all, who you think you're talking to? Even this very idea that as a stranger, right, people think that they can tell me what to do, not recommend, not ask a question, not try to have a conversation. You thinking you could tell me what to do. And even you already looking how you looking, you don't want to be the person trying to tell me what to do. And I'm just thinking like this really just like happened. And I just responded to him. I was like, "You're not the boss of me." And he kept running. But it was a short interaction, but I'm just thinking like the nerve, like the balls. First of all, we're outside. I'm not wearing nobody mask outside. Period. That's like is not happening. Second of all, you don't run me. Like there's just I mean, I just really feel like at this point, a lot of people have lost the art of minding your business. And I think that in a lot of ways, that's something that we have mastered in Mississippi. I think a lot of times people are generally chill, polite, you know what I mean? Southern hospitality, and people kind of mind their business. And I think in a lot of ways, that's good. And to be perfectly honest, some of these larger cities where I have visited that are supposedly the most diverse, right? The most progressive. I've met some of like the rudest people. That has been my experience, particularly. I was just talking to a friend about this not long ago, particularly when I go to stores and I'm shopping. I've had some of the rudest, what I believe to be the rudest experiences. And sometimes I have to just remind myself, like, Rhonda, you gotta, it's different. Like, you have different culture, different places. Cause I think, I can even be so used to like a certain level of just hospitality, which I would assume is just normal decency. And some people it's just be like you go places and it's just people just be walking around. I don't know if people be mad, depressed. I don't know what's going on, but don't take it out on me. I haven't done anything to you. So when he said that, y'all just like it was like a record scratch. I was like, who he talking to? And the lady with me had to tell me, like, I think he was talking to us. Oh, he might have been talking to y'all. He wasn't talking to me. Bruce said it's a mass cult. I just want to like, you know, and I want to be respectful of people that actually have respiratory issues, that have underlying conditions and stuff like that. I am sympathetic to those things. One of my really really good friends has respiratory issues and stuff like that. So, I respect people's a decision to be able to do what they want, but don't impose on me. I don't impose on you. I didn't say take that stupid mask off while you're literally running downtown in the heat of the day because you look absolutely ridiculous. I didn't say that. You know. But a lot of these places have gotten back to normal, and in some ways the experts can't even account for that. They really thought that they were going to be busing people to the morgue when a lot of these states opened up. It was like the big gloom. It was like, oh my God, these governors are trying to kill people. And now these people have gone on with their life and you have nothing to write home about. Of course, they're going to say it's the vaccine, right? Oh, it's the vaccine. The vaccine is coming in, it's doing well, it's saving people's lives. But if you actually look at the numbers, which I don't have in front of me today, I think I will have that for y'all next week. But if you look at the numbers, a lot of these people getting the vaccine are still getting COVID. And it's a pretty high number last time I checked. So, I'm like, it's crazy to see things come full circle. So many people going back to normal. So many people finally like, man, this was some BS. Or we've been lied to. Unfortunately, yes, you did have some people pass. Some people have really been affected by this. Some people have lost loved ones. But in a lot of ways, it was no real regard for their lives because they were almost used to push more fear mongering, to push a narrative, to push a lot of untruths, which it's just not fair. It's just not fair to the general population. Based on the numbers, I don't care how nobody spin it. It's not fair to use those people's deaths for political motivation, political aspirations, for polarizing news media, for creating cults, for deplatforming things about actual natural remedies and safeguards and immune boosters and therapies. So MM said this hasn't made sense since day one. Let me tell you, I've said this. When they first started talking about it and we saw the propaganda, and I just posted this not long ago on my Instagram, right? I posted a picture. I said, never forget. And it was the people in China, and you had these people in these hazmat suits coming to get them. You had this man laying out. Supposedly, he just allegedly he just then passed out in the middle of the road, in the middle of the city from COVID. Y'all remember pictures, videos were coming out. They were boarding people up in their houses. Y'all have to remember that propaganda started us in a direction that led up into where we are today. So when I was first seeing that, I'm just like everybody else. We kind of just have a reaction to what we're seeing, an initial reaction. So that first 2 weeks, I'm like, cool, I'm chilling. I'm in a house. I'm not going nowhere, But as things start to add up, as time started to go on, I'm like, some of this not making sense. I started looking at the actual numbers, the actual statistics, started reading exactly what CDC was saying. I wasn't listening to your favorite nightly news host. I was going straight to the source. And that allowed me to filter and cut through a lot of the fear mongering, the tactics, and the BS. And that's also a big part why I recommend people like reading their news and stuff like that. So Bruce said the vaccine isn't a cure, it just prevents severe symptoms. Yet they want to cancel Joe Rogan for being honest. It's a cult, especially up north. You right about that up north stuff, because I mean, it's just a different, it's like a different energy. It's like it's a whole different thing. I don't know. MM says CNN admitted they pushed COVID fear for ratings and intended to remove Trump. See the Project Veritas video. Twitter deplatformed Project Veritas. I didn't know Twitter did that. And I do remember seeing something, I think similar to what you're talking about with Project Veritas. I think like a month or two ago, if I'm thinking about the same thing you're talking about. But even that, right? Even Twitter removing, or deranking whatever they did to Project Veritas. Why? Why? If these people are actually saying these things, if two people are having a conversation and this person is actually saying these things happen while they were on their job, while they were working for whatever organization, we know why. We know why. Thank you, MM, for the super chat. All right, y'all. So let's jump into this last part. Let's talk about Dr. Umar real quick. So Dr. Umar, as a lot of y'all already know who Dr. Umar is, he's very popular in like the I guess like the conscious Africanesque community. I don't know if that's the best way to describe that, but y'all know who Dr. Umar is, okay? Very popular. He's recently become a part of meme culture. He's very known for the school that he's intending to open. Some people are suggesting as soon as in like this coming fall and things like that. I'm not really exactly sure about that. I haven't been really keeping up with it. But anyway, so Dr. Umar goes on the Breakfast Club, Pan-Africanist. Thank you. So Dr. Umar goes on the Breakfast Club, and this clip has since it's been shared widely, right? So we're gonna look at this for a few minutes, and then we are going to talk about it.
Did it on your first day. But he sat up here with you, Charlemagne, and told black people that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. So if you went out of your way begging black people to vote for you, why haven't we got an executive order or any other activity coming out of the Oval Office from President Biden to protect black people from police? Look what he's doing with the anti-Asian hate. President Joe Biden signed an executive order that is exclusive to Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. I don't have a problem with that. But if you can protect the Asian American and Pacific Islander from violence, why can't you do the same thing for black people? They've been dealing with violence for 1 year as a result of COVID. That's what it's called, the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Bill, to protect Asians as a result of discriminatory treatment that they've been dealing with for how long? 1 year. Black people have been catching hell for 400 years, and we have yet to get an executive order from Joe Biden to protect us from the police. So can I ask you a question? If the Senate was able to pass the anti-Asian hate crimes bill, Charlemagne and Envy, 96-1 with almost no opposition, why is it that the Emmett Till lynching bill still has not been approved? Why is it that there have been over 200 different anti-lynching bills introduced in the U.S. Congress? 200! And not one of them has been approved by the U.S. Congress yet. But the first ever Asian bill goes through on the first try. Look at the racism. Look at the discrimination. Look at the bias. Look at the inequity there. And why are they catering to the Asians? You know why? Because the amount of white people in this country is shrinking. That's right. And whenever the amount of white people in America shrinks, America looks to find other white groups or other minority groups that they can build an alliance with to protect their power and their interests. Who better than the Asians? They're just as conservative politically as many middle-class white Americans. They are just as economically comfortable as many middle-class white Americans. They don't like black people just as much as many.
So y'all see where Dr. Umar kind of going with it. So I posted on my Instagram, I don't know, maybe a couple of days ago, about how because this was actually when I was in DC. It was a day or two after we were talking to a senator, and she was explaining to us that it takes a bill on average about 7 years to get through Congress. On average, a bill takes about 7 years, right? And so, they recently passed this anti-Asian hate COVID-19 bill, did it swiftly, easily, and things like that. Now, right after I posted that, let me see, I'm going to read it to you. This was a tweet that was floating around pretty heavily from Terrain Walker. He said, "Can I be honest? I think politically African Americans are pretty much done. 2020 was our last chance, and once the DNC saw they could use black proxies to shout down anybody demanding tangibles for our vote, it was a wrap. Everybody else got legislation, we got twerk videos. So, I don't necessarily agree with everything Dr. Umar said in that video. For example, even the I think it goes a lot deeper than what people are saying. So why this is kind of like a double-edged sword is because on one hand, yes, Joe Biden could, I assume, do a bill or an executive order specifically for Black people, but in a lot of ways, executive orders are, in some ways, I think, more symbolic. Does this particular bill, the anti-Asian bill, have money attached to it? Yes, it does, but my point I'm making is some of the things even we saw during the Trump era, which were done by executive order, did not manifest over time or did not get moving. So I feel like that would be more of a symbolic gesture if you don't have an actual Congress behind you. Also, we need to remember that there are already laws on the books. When Obama was in office, he signed something about, it was like a hate crime bill, right? There was also, Obama was talking about, he did something, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it was going to be where the feds would take on more, the Department of Justice would take on more of the police brutality cases and stuff like that as well. So, like, I don't mean to sound like a negative Nancy or anything like that, but if, like, it comes back to the same thing I was saying with big tech, with mainstream media, with the experts. If these people aren't actually going to be held accountable in real time, like, what's happening, what's really going on, even now, you had these politicians that rode into the White House smooth as can be on the back of the George Floyd protests, on the back of Black people. Now, as a Black person, if I say that you try to use me or manipulate me emotionally, traumatize me emotionally, I'm in the wrong, right? I'm in the wrong. I haven't, it's only been over 100 days. I'm the problem. People that speak out about, and the crazy part about it is you have some of us speaking out before this, like well before this election. I did a walk away video, I don't know, maybe like 2-3 years before this recent election, talking about some of my concerns with the way that the Democratic Party had notoriously, consistently, almost nauseatingly has treated or handled the Black community. But to say it at that time was controversial. It was controversial. But now I think maybe more people are starting to see what it like the actual problem. It's to the point where Black people have to stop letting themselves be used, emotionally manipulated for everybody else's end goals. Whether this is whoever's political career, whether some of these media personalities that y'all love are trying to get benefits, get favors, get jobs, get interviews, get certain networking opportunities. it's almost like sad in a way to be disrespected so boldly. That should actually bother people way more than anybody's comments. People will be upset with the commentators. Don't be mad at the commentators. Be mad at the people consistently manipulating you, abusing you, using you. Working and colluding with big pharma lobbyists, while also pushing very harmful and traumatizing things on you by the way of the media. So yes, I do think based on the black women saved America. Based on all the rhetoric, right? Based on all the theatrics, based on the kneeling with the kente cloth, based on the BLM blocks, kindergarten blocks, daycare blocks in the back of the videos. Based on all this, yes, it is absolutely a slap in the face. And anybody that cannot see that, but let's be honest, like let's just really call it what it is. If you have a group of people that they're dedicated to you, they're religious to you, they're committed to you, you can treat them any way you want. You can break your promises. You can never show up when it's time to show up. Well, I mean, it's actually amazing to me. It's amazing to me when I could turn on, a Malcolm X interview or a clip, and how some of the stuff he was saying could still be relevant to this day. That is like, I don't know whether to be extremely sad or extremely impressed. Like, and it makes me feel some type of way that people would rather be hostile to the people that would call this nonsense out than to the actual people that have consistently. Commentators don't have no control over your community. They don't have no control over what's going on with your family. They don't have no control over the school system, the jail system, the medical care system. But the same people that will be so loud about their opinions on systemic racism will not address or mention in real time the continuance of how that has manifested. People got, I guess, because voting, around the actual election was very polarizing. People were in their fields, you know. And I may have called this insanity. I was talking to a friend and I said, yeah, this is insanity. And they got offended that I said this is insanity, but what would you call it? Literally. What would you call this at this point? What better word is for people to do the same thing over and 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 over. I'm saying over this many times because that's how annoying and repetitive it is. People doing the same exact things time and time again and actually expecting a different result. And I think honestly now I feel like I've grown so much as a person. I feel like, and I sound like an old person saying this, but I feel like I've seen a lot. My awareness, I believe, is on a different level as compared to just a couple years ago. I've had a chance to even rub elbows and, get to meet some of these people, whether that be celebrities or politicians. And I don't have like I don't have like a anger, or I think I'm going through a very just observant phase. Like I'm just looking, you know, I'm just noticing, I'm just peeping how some of these conversations are so repetitive. Some of the games are so repetitive. And I said, and I think I saw somebody say this recently, but I think I even said this in his walk away video, and I mentioned that. Oh, and a guy kind of hinted at this in a tweet that I just read by Terrain Walker. This previous election, I believe, was one of the most opportune times in what I believe to at least be, my lifespan. One of the most opportune times to do something different, go a different direction, make I'm sorry, y'all. I mean, one of the most opportune and polarizing times. I believe I said this in my walk away video, or I've said it somewhere on YouTube. Making somebody earn your vote in a time like that, or even creating a situation where it's like we're gonna do the total opposite of what you expect, or we're totally off it. I don't think people understand the trajectory of what they could have said or did for politics. You actually had, within these last few years, you've actually had the most people that were, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of seeing in a lot of ways how we've been lied to, kind of seeing how mainstream news media has lied to us. I think there was something happening with a different peak in awareness and things like that. But does that even really matter if people are just going to do the same thing that they've been doing for 20 years? I still don't believe to this day nor understand how Joe Biden even got to the point that he did. Nobody can convince me that this man wasn't handed selected, right? Prompted to be moved up in that process as we went through the primary. And I already talked about the DNC and the news media and some of the things they were doing and stifling independent voices and all these switcheroos that were happening, making people like drop out like flies to create these teams of, oh, let's just support this person now. Yeah, who called you up and told and suggested that to you? Um, you know, Grace said, I hate to say it, but Lyndon B. Johnson was right. I was just talking to a friend about that the other day. I really believe maybe there are some people that still have more hope than I do, right? And hopefully this doesn't come off negative. I personally believe this is the most empowering thing. But I'm even looking at this George Floyd bill and the tons of federal money it's going to offer these police agencies and stuff like that. And I'm thinking in some regard, if you allow people the space in the room, whether that's by decreasing their taxes, whether that's by helping increase access to things, giving people the option to not only protect themselves, because some of these cities, they make it super hard for you to protect yourself, giving you, even going back to this maternity thing, right? How some of these insurance companies don't even give women the option of birthing at a birthing center, right? Or paying this doula, because I feel like this will be the more comfortable option than uh than being susceptible to big pharma or the medical system. People kind of diverting some of these things, right? I've talked about homeschooling. I've talked about people creating initiatives and plans, whether that be to protect your own family or create or build something with your community. At this point, I don't have faith that you can give these politicians more money and it's like, all right, that's the end all be all. This is what's gonna fix it. This time we for real, y'all. We're gonna take your taxes, we're gonna increase them. This time we for real. We're gonna do this right. We're gonna really help you this time. I just, you know, it's nothing that I've seen in recent history that gives me this faith that it's just this vote for this, person to Congress and this one person is going to change it all, or even this one president. Even this one president, right? We can talk about how Trump came in and did some good things, did good things for like the economy and something else I was about to say, even the discussion of free speech and kind of the whole thing with the Section 230 and holding these tech agencies accountable. But one person can't come in and just overnight change these systems, right? It's kind of like this ebbing and flowing depending on which administration that we're under. Right now, you don't really have the tech thing being talked about in a way that it was previously. So if we aren't constantly talking about these things, calling them out, letting people know it doesn't matter that it's a change of administration. We don't give a crap. These are still principles and values that we care about. But so it's been an interesting run so far. Like I said, stuff has kind of ramped up here lately. I am planning to kind of get back in my more regular routine of putting out content. We'll see what happens, but I just think it's super interesting that election time went to being so hostile. And if you don't vote for me, you're not black. But then people will make all the excuses in the world of why the Joe Biden administration can do these things for. I didn't play it in that clip, but Dr. Umar also mentioned these things being done for the trans community, these things being done for the Asian community. And I've always told y'all I don't care about, like, people should advocate for themselves. That's human nature. That makes sense. People usually like, no matter how good or awesome you think you are, a lot of times it's been proven that we consider our feelings first. A lot of times, it's just human nature. So I don't think there's anything wrong to for people to advocate for themselves. I do, however, 100% think it's wrong when people make these BS excuses, try to sweep things under the rug, try to switch up, try to not keep that same energy. I don't think it's okay when the certain demographics or even a general population is used for their emotional capital, and then once you move in because you've advanced your political career, you like, I'm off that. I'm off, y'all. It's actually pretty offensive. It's actually highly, like, high key offensive if we really just being honest. And even the way that this can happen over and over again, I mean, it's almost a projection to the world saying you can run over me, I'll allow whatever. You can hype me up, you can say I'm the reason you won, I put you in office, I'm your biggest supporter, and then nothing on the back end. So, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I do think some things may be coming down a pipeline, but they do say that a president's first 100 days is kind of indicative of what their, administration would look like over the 4 years. So, I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting dynamic. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. But I saw a lot of people, kind of sharing what, Dr. Umar was saying. And obviously, I do agree with some of those things. Um, you know, but we'll see. We'll see how that really matters going forward, if it even matters, going forward. And on some level, when I think about the level of, and this is what I was trying to explain to somebody just here recently, and I don't know, it's like, why is this not clicking for you? But when we are up against a billion-dollar propaganda machine and people are constantly getting these repetitive messages, it can be very hard to filter through that. you know um but we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. I want to thank everybody tonight for the super chats. I really appreciate y'all so much. That dumb AR said they need to separate Twitter and politics. Simple as that. I don't know what to extent you mean. Maybe you mean like Twitter not trying to run politics. I don't know. Or boosting the algorithm based on politics. But thank everybody for the super chats. Thank everybody who is a member of my Patreon. That link is below if you would like to support my content. A special thanks to my VIP patrons, Ray and Daniel. I have new merch in my Shopify link below, along with my unicorns, fairy dust, and AR-15s type of girl tees. Those are available. Thank y'all for always supporting me, rocking with me. We will be talking soon. Y'all have a good night. Bye.